Hello, family. Welcome back to Landline, your direct link to all things comedy, politics, and culture. I'm your host, Janaya Future Khan, champ yapper and frequent nuisance in the comedy and activist worlds. Let's get dialed in. So, I don't know what better way to capture the overview than I see London, I see France, I can see your underpants. In this case, the underpants that we're seeing is America. Let's start there because I watched the debate. It was one of the most abysmal performances I've ever seen. And since that moment with Biden kind of flopping, which is a weird way to say that somebody looks like they were kind of deceased on their feet, he just, every major news broadcast, every panel, every political pundit, every opinion piece has been like, is he going to step down? He needs to step down. I haven't seen this kind of like consensus across the board for the Democratic Party in a long time. And I also haven't been in a will they, won't they situation with a man since I was like in third grade and I was facing my arch nemesis, Brian Busquin, in dodgeball in King's Court. It was wild. Like I have never been in this situation with a man in decades, it feels like. So anyway, I did watch it from beginning to end and it was a really terrible feeling. There was Trump, who every time he opened his mouth, it was just a lie that came out. And then there was Biden, who couldn't close his mouth, but not because he was talking too much. It's because he forgot to close his mouth. It's almost like there needed the moths needed an escape hatch. You know, it was just wild. It was profoundly uncomfortable. But here's the thing. We can talk about all the myriad reasons why you have this person who lies, and then you have like Biden, who is supposed to be the space between us and fascism. He's like the last defender, and that feels really weird. That feels like a really weird, bad, awful, terrible thing, and all the other adjectives you can think of that comes with that. But does he stand between us and sort of the far right fascist reality that is in our worst nightmares? Yes. We are facing that, and the theocratic far right has kind of taken every opportunity to exploit every hole, every gap, actually they've done everything illegal and illegal, legal and illegal, and then illegal again to win and to gain wins, and they've done it on every level from the court, from the Fifth Circuit all the way up to the Supreme Court. We're seeing the ramifications of that. And so, I gotta say, if you have any doubts on whether or not this is true, I just want to give you a quote that that Trump had this year, right? He goes, "I'll be a dictator." I think that's a good quote. I think that really embodies very well what his angle is. And if that's not enough for you, you have Kevin Roberts from the Heritage Foundation. So this is the think tank responsible for Project 2025. We have another episode on that. Go ahead and check that out if you don't know what I'm talking about. But this is like the fascist think tank. And he goes, "We are in the process of a second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be." So I believe Trump when he says that, because he doesn't lie about power. And I believe this freak when he says, that it will remain bloodless so long as we kind of lay over and die. I'm going to say this. It remains to be seen whether or not Trump is going to back Project 2025. He says that he doesn't believe in it, but we know that he lies. I'll also say this. It remains to be seen whether or not Biden is going to be running again. We don't fully know. We know he's saying that he will, and we know that a lot of the major donors that back him don't necessarily believe that he should. Also, there's the matter of time, and I think time will be the greatest indicator leading up to it. And since then, we've had Kamala's name floated around. So I just want to give us a little backdrop on Kamala Harris, because I got to tell you, chameleon. She has come and go, It's just that loving her would be easy if it wasn't for her record of truancy. Right? We know that. We know that she's got a really terrible record of truancy, but in the last 4 years, she's kind of been a beige suit wearing person who just has these really inane, weird quotes, like about coconut trees and living in the context of and Venn diagrams, and we're in the reality of what can be unburdened by what is. And she says that over and over and over again, but since this moment, she's put on teal. And on Essence Fest, she sounded like the Kamala of the days of yore. I actually met her very briefly in like 2018 when she was making her, Senate run or whatever it was. And I got to tell you, she had charisma. I think it's because she's a Howard girl and her press was always like on point. But here's the facts, okay? The truth is the Biden administration, whether it's Kamala Harris, whether it's Joe Biden, like we deserve better. We need more. And the Democratic Party has not represented our best interests and our core values in any major way in decades. And for a lot of us in this moment, the breaking point was Gaza and the breaking point was Palestine. And I'm with you. I couldn't be with you more. What happens when we say, well, ethically, I can't vote for Biden because of this? I'll say to you, are you playing checkers or are you playing chess? Because I'm with you if you're playing checkers, right? That is the logical conclusion. I'm trying to hold this really ugly line where it's not about empowering the system, it's about empowering ourselves. What's the best way in a long-term way to try to commit to saving some lives in Palestine? You have Trump who in his one term, right, put the embassy, the U.S. embassy in Jerusalem, which at that period of time was a very contested region and important for religious, moral, ethical reasons to the Palestinian people. And when he did that, it was a major blow to the Palestinian movement because it legitimized Israel and gave them more means for more military support in that region. People lost homes. I met some of those people, right? So it's not some theory. It's just the facts. And, we're in this point where we're kind of pointing the finger at each other and we're kind of fighting. And I've been here before, and I want to tell you a little bit about that because we're in this moment where we're like, well, I can't endorse genocide. And I'm like, are we going to think that simplistically about this? Right? I can't endorse genocide. Nobody's asking you to. And in fact, to be honest with you, I'm not even asking you to vote. I'm just like, go on this journey with me. Back in 2015, BLM was the most hated movement on the planet. That's when we were actually a movement. Whatever happened in 2020, it was something else. It was like a different kind of movement. But in 2015, we were the other kind of movement, the one that had an unbelievable amount of direct actions. We were hated. We were the most hated movement in America. Occupy didn't respond that way. The Women's March, everybody else was like, ooh, come sit at the table. But Black Lives Matter existed because Black people had been keeping the Democratic Party alive, but had never been invited to the table when you know that we are the only ones that season our food in that conversation. Let's just be really clear. We were not invited to the table. And so when it just so happened that we were in this circumstance where it was like, hey, fascism is knocking at the door, or do we back Clinton? Right? The Clinton administration had done some of the most unimaginable damage to the Black population in America through their, super predator campaign. They ran on a whole campaign that criminalized Black Americans in a way that is just like breathtaking. And the Democratic Party went so far to the right that we actually have not seen them go back in our lifetime. And we had this thing where it's like, well, what do you do? We had all these direct actions. We were the most hated movement in the country. We went everywhere they were, and we messed it up. We really messed up. We were in Netroots Nation taking that thing over. Anywhere where Democratic nominees were, we went. Hillary Clinton, we were all up in her pantsuits, all right? You know what I'm talking about, them death row record pantsuits that she was wearing? We were all up in them. She couldn't get away from us, right? She couldn't. And what came of that, right? What came of that is she was forced to acknowledge the damage that the Clinton administration had run. And we got criticized, by the way. Every progressive you can imagine went after us, and we weren't supported by the left very well at that point. So she comes out here and she's like acknowledging the damage that was done and put out a new policy platform that addressed some of the, unbelievably draconian imprisonments and criminalization of Black Americans. We did that while we were still doing our direct actions, while we were still fighting against police brutality, while we were still fighting to defund the police. And while we were doing that, we were looking at inroads to start running our own candidates. We love Cori Bush now, But that was years in the making. And it's very odd to me, we're at a point in 2024 where it's like, well, if you vote, you endorse genocide. And by the way, I understand the emotion completely. I actually relate to it. I want to be in that with you. But discipline dictates that I look further ahead at the implications of that sort of position. And, you know, it was tough. We were running this thing. Everybody hated us, but we did it anyway. And it was working. But then something kind of happened. Movements are tough because you have a lot of strangers that come together, and they come together in a lot of pain, and it brings up all the interpersonal dynamics. Plus, 2015 was the year that we got quantifiable evidence that we had been infiltrated by DHS and by the FBI and CIA. I feel like I should be wearing a tin hat again, but this is just the truth. You can look it up. We had been infiltrated, and part of what they do is they sow discontent and create malcontents, and it was just an awful, awful time. And rather than just doing the work that we've been doing, there was a subset of people who said, well, if you try to do anything around electoral justice, you are a neoliberal and you believe in the system and you're a sellout and all these things. And that was very confusing. And I got to tell you, it fractured us. It fractured us in a way that I didn't think was possible. And we never recovered from it. It essentially broke up our movement. And I got to ask, what was wrong with doing all of it, right? Don't we have an obligation to? Like, if you say, I don't want people to die in other places in the world, and we know that a far right wave in the West, in America, is a tsunami everywhere else, don't we have a duty to pull and push every button, every lever? I got to tell y'all something. I really do, okay? I don't know if we're ever going to be in a world, right, where AOC gets to be president. I don't know if America will ever let that happen. But my God, I'll be damned if I don't give it a shot. If I don't give it some kind of shot, because that's what our teeth are for, y'all, to take a bite at a shit. I want to bite something before I go, because it's not just about building our power, which, by the way, the left does. If you think it's just about critiquing it and not building it, we've only done half the reading. Again, it's chess, not checkers. And I learned how to play chess before I made this comment. I really did. I bought books and everything. I learned because I was like, is it that different? It turns out it is. It is very different. Every possibility is on the table. But it's about playing and continuing to play until the game is over. And as long as we're alive, everything is possible. That's not my quote. That's some brilliant activist-y type. And you'll tell me who it is, because I can't remember. But the point is, it's about taking every action that we can and using your teeth to take a bite out of shit, because guess what? Even if a win isn't possible, it's about stopping the consolidation of power on the right? That's so much of our job. It's to stop them from winning. I mean, take a bite out of our enemies. What fun, what joy that brings. Did Kendrick Lamar teach us nothing? If Drake does not represent the far right in this context, I don't know what does. Kendrick showed us the power of hatred, what you can do when you make art. And was it not obvious that his music, his songs, his writings, all the Easter eggs in it, is it not obvious that that was years in the making? That he had been preparing for this moment? That he came up with some Ninja Kenny kind of movements and just hit them from every angle possible? Light skins are not going to recover for the rest of my days on earth, and I support it. My point is, it's like Sartre was saying, right? He said he wanted to use his teeth. He thought he could take a bite out of something until one day he realized that too much time had passed and he was toothless, right? We do get to that point, but we're not there yet. Every time that we take a bite out of our enemies, we create an opening that makes new possibilities that maybe weren't there before. At this stage, I'm okay with just fucking up every single plan that they have. Every kind of agenda they want to push, I want to fuck it up, because even if Project 25 is only 7% successful, it's too much. It's too many percentages. It's too much percent. That's too much percent for me, okay? If you care about Palestinians, if you care about Muslims, if you care about Jewish people, if you care about black people, if you care about immigrants, if you care about trans people, if you care about poor people, anyone, If you care about people, you take action now, right? I'm not asking you to cast your vote. I'm asking you to stop casting stones. We are the only thing that makes any of this worth it. Do you understand? We're facing systems of power, okay? That means we are facing administrations and governments that have unlimited resources, unlimited money, unlimited military. They're just unlimited. We, people, are our best resource and our only resource, and it's been enough. It's been enough to win at different points in times in history. And so when we start abusing the people, right, that make us possible, and we start, I don't know, throwing stones at them and feeling more righteous than them and better than them, I'm like, we have lost the plot. But we haven't lost each other. It's about bringing it back. I did reference in the beginning, I see London, I see France. Let's talk about London and France for a second. We had an episode that we did on Macron and everything else. Well, guess what? The left party in France won some major friggin' seats. That was something that I got to tell you, I didn't see coming. I did not see that coming, and neither did the experts. They said Macron was making a huge mistake in this moment, and the far right was going to win a bunch of seats. I believed it too. They were right halfway. Macron did not win out in this moment. It turns out that a left-wing coalition with an unexpected surge did. And what does that mean, right? What does it mean that they won more seats? What does that mean? I'm going to tell you something. Le Pen's far-right nationalist party did not come through. Right, the People's Front did. What it does, and now you have experts who are saying, "Oh no, we're going to be in a political gridlock." A political gridlock is awesome in this moment. That means that every time Macron's and Le Pen's penises come together to try to push their agenda, they have to talk to a socialist. Okay, do you know how awesome that is? That means a socialist gets to decide just what might pass and what might not pass. That means that you got to go through our door first. Does that mean that everything that we want, every way we want to turn up we're gonna win that? No. But tell me that isn't some kind of win. And I got to tell you something. In France, they be eating cheese and bread and drinking red wine. There's no vegetables in that diet. You're telling me they have more stamina than what we got? Let's talk about London for a second. You know, Keir Starmer. Now, look, I'll be the first to tell you, I pay attention. I already know that left. So the Labour Party wins in a landslide. It's amazing. It's beautiful. But we also know that the Labour Party went kind of centrist in this run, right? It's not Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party. It's Starmer's Labour Party. And Starmer's Labour Party is a bit centrist. Now, you have about 5 or 6 super leftists. Sound familiar? It's kind of like ours, right? 5 or 6 super leftists that are still there. Do we want to build power for them, or do we want to leave them? There's a person in that Labour Party, okay? Just like AOC. Her name's Zara Sultana, right? That's a potential future challenger for the Labour Party leadership. If we did our job and increased the majority, yada, yada, yada. If that's what we want to see at some point, right? There's no moral argument to this. There's not like we're going to redeem the system. There is no redeeming the system. The very nature of its existence and how evil it was, how it came into being, right? Do I need to reference enslavement and genocide, attempted genocide against all indigenous populations? There's no moral argument to be won. It's whether or not we can experience redemption while we're here. I want to fuck up every plan that they have, but at this point, we're throwing so many stones at each other that we're seeing through AIPAC's agenda. Jamal Bowman lost, right? There's no single fault, and I'm not here pointing fingers. The truth is, for a lot of folks who are like, I can never believe in the system, the issue is you're too smart. You're actually just too smart. You are correct. But it's not about redemption for the system. It's about redemption for ourselves. How do you want to go out? Right? I was there in like 2016 in Israel and in Palestine. I saw. I'm on Canary Mission, and no offense to any of y'all, but if you just got here, do your due diligence. Get on Canary Mission too. By the way, that's like the think tank that's anything that's anti-Israel and pro-Palestine in any length of time in any meaningful way, you end up on Canary mission. So, was marching all you were going to do? Was that it? Because I got to tell you, it's a beautiful thing to march. It's a beautiful thing to protest. But if you think, like, let me ask you something. When you were protesting, was it like, I hate death and I don't like it and that's what I'm marching for? Or were you trying to change the trajectory of like our lifetime? Were you trying to stop the money that was going to fund Israel's war on innocent peoples? Right? That's what you were marching for, which means that you were trying to appeal to the government in place to make that happen. That means that you were engaging in the democratic process. That means that you were authenticating the current democratic leadership. You threw your fist up. That's to me, I mean, if you think about it for 2 seconds, it's not that different than casting a vote. And again, my issue isn't saying, oh, you got to vote now, but I'm saying, stop throwing stones. Stop throwing stones. I don't need you to cast votes. I just don't need you to cast stones. What are you doing? You're engaging in a process, my G. That's what people are trying to do with this vote thing. My point is, and the only point that matters here, is who we are while we're here. Use your teeth for something. I don't want to go out like a little bitch boy. I don't want to do that. I want to fight. I'm going to fight. And so as much as I am with y'all in spirit in terms of like, I can't endorse, I'm not endorsing that. I'm trying to change shit in the only ways that I know how, which is every single button, every single lever, every single possibility. And let me ask you this, of the people who called everybody who was doing all that work and pushing an electoral justice strategy, what have they accomplished since then, right? Because they said this is not the right way, and that's fine. But what did they accomplish? I read everything every day. I get up. I even look at Scientific American. I've looked. I can't point, because guess what? It's not about what you feel when you're an activist or when you're somebody who cares about something or when you're somebody with principles. It's about the results. What were your results? What came out of the things that we did? And if it didn't work out the way we wanted it to, were you willing to keep going? I guess what I'm saying is keep going with me, because I'm not going out like that. I really want to do things and to see things that are different. And look, again, I don't know if we're ever going to get somebody like an AOC, somebody that properly embodies, or Cori Bush embodies our belief system. But I do know I'm not going to let the other one win. And I do know that I'm going to take a stab at every possible like spot and space, and I'm going to bite, and I'm going to just mess up their plans, and I'm going to be a thorn in their side, and I'm going to wreck everything the right tries to do in the meantime. Because maybe in a system like this, winning completely was never possible. But my God, if we haven't won some anyway. So, that's my little spiel. No wins are complete. There's criticisms everywhere, but remember that the reason why this matters so much is that a wave here, a far-right wave in the West, is a tsunami of pain and annihilation and starvation for everywhere else in the world. So with that, on to the next. Let's hit that question of the day.
Hello, my name is Jesse from Pasadena, California, and my question is, why is it that cis white women have such a difficult time accepting their privilege? Thanks.
All right, Jesse. I think everybody has a hard time with the whole privilege thing. And I got to tell you, I think everybody does. But I'll tell you the honest reason. Because we live in the kind of system that we does, with the kind of educational system that it is. And so people are hearing privilege for the first time when they've already been through some shit. And if you tell somebody that they haven't been through some shit when they've been through some shit, they're going to freak out. They're going to freak out about it. You can call that fragility, but I actually think that if you attack anybody's personal story, they'll lose it. So, privilege was always about you understanding yourself, not you understanding the world. That's privilege operates in its best when it's like your own sort of asset mapping of what you had or didn't have that kind of made you the person that you are. I don't think it's big enough to capture the nuances of people's experiences. So the other answer, which is also true, is that they're annoying. And that's just, that's just people in general. But it's that weird thing where you've had some things, but then you've also not have some things. And then you're like, well, I should have those things. It's like that weird entitlement thing that comes with it. But again, that's just people. I'm more interested in the beliefs and values that we have and not necessarily the concept of privilege, because it changes over time. It's not big enough. So my hope actually is that we move past identity as like the place where we stay. Like, identity is great to enter things and enter conversations and movements, but it's not where we should exit from. It should be from our shared values and beliefs. And at this stage, I'm ready to go. Like, and with whoever's ready to go with me. As long, if you are against the right, we can get in the fight. And that wasn't supposed to rhyme, and that was very corny, but I think you get what I'm saying. Anyway, thanks so much for the question. And with that, I think it's time we give it a wrap, y'all. So I just want to say thank you so much for, listening to Landline. It really means the world to us. It means the world to me. This show really is a labor of love, and we got new episodes that drop daily. It's available on Spotify, Apple, and soon on every other streaming platform. I'm still trying to figure out how to get the links up to you with the notes, but we're going to figure that out. Everything has been fact-checked. So I just want to say, drop your questions as a voice note to Landline with jfk@gmail.com. Shout out to Melissa and the Landline team. And shout out to you, the listeners, who make it all possible.